everyone, and welcome back to the Bundesliga Show, brought to you by Over the Bar, with your hosts, myself, Rory Petrie, and of course, Mark Broadhurst in Nuremberg. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the Bundesliga Show. We're very excited that we've got a guest back on the Bundesliga Show this week, which will help drag us through what has been more of a quieter weekend in the Bundesliga. So we've got you guys a guest to add to the flavour of the show this week. So yeah, we're looking forward to that. So before we get our Schalke fan Greg Devine on, and we get into our featured four games and talk a little bit about Schalke and all the rest of the games, we'll do our Mark's mystery anagram as per usual, and we'll quickly run through the results of this weekend as well. But first, Mark, let's go through those anagrams.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's have a recap. Let's start by recapping last week's anagram, which, as you can see on the bottom of the screen, was a brief rug. So we were lucky enough to have another commenter who got it correct this week. Yeah, and as you can see, the correct answer on the bottom of your screens was the Bundesliga High Flyers Freiburg, who before this week had been on a really, really good run of 5 wins in a row, but obviously that run did stop this week, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. So yeah, I just want to congratulate. At the bottom of your screen you can see Sprechen Sie Fußball. I want to thank you first of all for commenting on our channel. We always like people to comment and get in touch with us. You are a new commenter, and it's the first time you got the correct answer on our anagram. So thank you very much for that, and congratulations. Perhaps not our hardest one this week. So yeah, this week's going to be harder. So yeah, let's see if you can get it again this week, and let's hope we can get a lot more comments on that topic. So let's have a little look again at this week 16's Mark's mystery anagram. So as you can see at the bottom of your screen now, it's 3 words this week. It is wheat, them, pop. So that's 3 words. So remember, guys, it has to be something related to the Bundesliga, the top tier of the Bundesliga, and it has to be a club like it was last week. It has to be a player, or it has to be a coach / manager, whatever you want to call them these days. So yeah, if you're listening on our podcast, if you're listening on our Spotify or on our any of our providers for that, then just take a pen now. I'm going to read it to you slower so you can write it down. So the first word is wheat. That's W-H-E-A-T. The second word is them, T-H-E-M. Then the final word is pop, P-O-P. So good luck for that. Remember to comment as much as you can, even if you have no idea of the answer and it's just a wild guess, then we're still happy to see you comment, and we want to have as much interaction as possible with you guys. And yeah, don't be afraid to do that, and remember to interact with us as much as possible. We like to get in touch with other guys who have similar interests to us, in particular the Bundesliga, so it's absolutely perfect for you to do so. So let's so that brings an end to Mark's mystery anagram for week 16. So let's swiftly move on now to the results of week 16. It perhaps wasn't the most entertaining week you're ever going to see in the Bundesliga, with a massive 5 draws out of 9 games. So if any of you guys like betting on draws, then this week was your week, I think. With probably a lot of games that you would have predicted to finish draws did finish draws this week as well. So let's have a little look at the results. On Friday night, we had another win for Union Berlin against fast faltering Leverkusen, a 1-0 win there. Then we had let's be honest, it was a bore draw between FC Cologne and Hertha Berlin, 2 underperforming teams really in the Bundesliga this year. Then we had a shock draw for Dortmund at home against beleaguered Mainz, who were leading until quite late on in that game as well. So yeah, I mean, that was a massive shock, the shock of the weekend, I think. Then we had another, I think this game was even more boring than the other one. This was a 0-0 draw between Hoffenheim and Bielefeld, but it's another good result for Bielefeld. They keep on picking up points, and somehow Sebastian Hoeneß keeps avoiding the chop, doesn't he? And yeah, Werder Bremen collecting a pretty rare 2-0 win over Augsburg, who are now starting to falter a little bit. An entertaining 2-2 draw between Wolfsburg and Leipzig, who dropped more points. An even more entertaining 2-2 draw between entertainment specialists Stuttgart and Gladbach, finishing 2-2 as well. Then moving on to the Sunday games, we had a tight game, which once again, we always know what happens with these tight games. Bayern managed to come through, and once again it happened with a pretty late goal there and a 2-1 win over on-form Freiburg. And then the final game of the weekend, which leads us perfectly into our guest introduction, it was another defeat for Schalke. We were saying that maybe they would pick up on their first win in almost a year last week, but it wasn't to be, with Frankfurt comfortably winning 3-1 over the Gelsenkirchen side. So, over to Rory to introduce our guest for week 16.
Yeah, let's get straight into it. So this week we're very happy and glad to be joined by Greg Devine. So Greg runs a Twitter page for his beloved Schalke, which is the username is at SO4UK, or you can find him by typing in Schalke_UK. So Greg's obviously a devout Schalke fan. His Twitter page is very close to 2,000 followers, so please do go drop him a follow if you're on Twitter and you want to keep in touch of what Greg thinks of all of Schalke's ongoing trials and tribulations. But without further ado, let's get Greg in now.
Hello, Greg.
How you doing?
Evening, Greg. How's it going?
Hi.
I've had better Sundays. Well, of course, it's going to get better from now on in.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you can kind of you can vent a little bit of your frustration for the performance on today's show. So it's the perfect timing in some ways.
Yeah. I shoot from the hip when it comes to Schalke, so I won't be
That's good. Yeah.
I think it's the best way this season, to be honest. Yeah. Okay, so without further ado, let's make a start on the Over the Bars featured for, where we collect together the four best games or the four most entertaining games of the week. So there's no better place to start with Greg's introduction than what we consider to be the game of the week, really, which was a Frankfurt home win over Schalke. Yeah, I mean, obviously last week we talked a lot, the 4-0 win over Hoffenheim, the 4-0 destruction of Hoffenheim, really. We wondered whether this could be the start, this could be the trigger of a Schalke resurgence, but I think based on today's performance, I think I can see you laughing there, Greg. Yeah, you don't seem convinced at all, really. Yeah. What did you make of it today?
You know what? It was kind of what I expected. I've been a Schalke fan long enough to know that the good times don't generally last that long, and there's always a bump on the road just shortly around the corner. And today, I think I tweeted within the first 2 minutes, this is scary already. We kind of set ourselves up today to be torn apart. We had nothing in midfield. Frankfurt are a quick, fast-paced team that moved the ball around very well. And when you've got Stambouli in central midfield and Serdar, who's, in my opinion, a better attacking midfielder than holding midfielder, we made it very, very easy for them. And it was no surprise when Frankfurt went a goal up. It could have come before then, but Varman in goal played very well today. And you know, when we equalised straight after, it would come by a Frankfurt error. It was a good finish by Hoppe. Of course, it's a good finish, but there was only going to be one winner today, and we had very little in midfield. And when the ball did get into the opponent's half, we were very, very poor with our decisions. We tend to run into blind alleys, try and play the impossible ball. And I don't know what our pass percentage ratio was today, but I'd expect it to be very, very low, because I think both the second and the third goal for Frankfurt came about from us losing possession in the Frankfurt defensive areas when we was on the counter. They countered us, and they cut through us like a hot knife through butter, to excuse a bit of a cheesy bun.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you watch a lot of Schalke games. I would imagine you watch every game through and through. Would you say this performance was typical of Schalke's season, or did you see any kind of maybe improvement? Or because obviously, I mean, you've taken some batterings this season. Let's be honest, specifically away from home. I mean, I'm sure you don't want me to remind you, but the Bayern game. Let's stop at that. Yeah, let's stop at that. But yeah, would you say this has been a typical away performance from Schalke this season?
No, I wouldn't say. I wouldn't say it's a typical performance. Don't get me wrong. If Farman hadn't made those saves, then this could have been a 4 or 5-1 today, which probably would then change my opinion now. But there does seem to be a bit more of a team spirit than there was. Does seem to be a bit more of a realization that we are in a really tough position, and it's down to the players to try and get us out of that. Now, obviously, ability is also very, very important, and it's obvious that we lack that in some key areas. But I do believe, certainly since Christmas, there is more of I think there's more belief in the team that we can get out of this, albeit it's going to be a very, very difficult task. And I can see it going down to the last game of the season, which I think is either Bielefeld away or Cologne away.
Interesting stuff. I think what you picked up on there, Greg, is obviously since Christmas, we've seen a bit more of desire and maybe a shape to Schalke. Obviously, you mentioned already the midfield perhaps being a bit of a worry. I just want to ask you on two players really that we've seen, especially last week in terms of the Hoffenheim result. Obviously, Matthew Hopp and Sead Kolasinac coming back to the club. Certainly with Kolasinac, we've seen him play in the Premier League. We kind of know what he's about. I think we chatted about it last week, Mark, and he had a decent start to his life in Arsenal colours, but then kind of faded. So one part of my question to you, Greg, is do you think Kolasinac can have an inspiring kind of figurehead sort of, and obviously his qualities are obvious, and he's now been given the captain's armband, so can he, rally the troops, so to speak? And then the second part of it will be about Matthew Hopp. Obviously, he seems to have scored goals at all the age groups through Schalke, and now obviously seems to have an eye for goal. His goal today was very opportunistic, I thought, showed good pace to get around his last man as well. So yeah, do you have high hopes for Matthew Hopp as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of Kolasinac. I think, before he went to Arsenal, he was a sort of player that would kind of put his body on the line. And I think that's something that's been missing for Schalke for quite a while. Yeah. And I think at Schalke, you have to be realistic about the calibre player you have. It's unlikely we're going to have world beaters, and when we do get them, we sell them pretty quickly and for not a lot. But when we do get someone who wants to make the effort and is prepared to get stuck in like Kolasinac, I think it makes him quite an endearing character. And yeah, I certainly welcome him back to Schalke. He had last week's game, it was obvious the impact he had. It's almost like the players around him grew in confidence by having him in the team. Today he kind of showed some of his Arsenal form. Yeah, today wasn't his best game, and he was quite sloppy at times. I don't think he will ever be classed as a world-class fullback, but what he is good at is transitioning from defence into attack. And certainly during his first stint at Schalke, he was the catalyst for a lot of Schalke opportunities, and I thoroughly expect the same. And I think I'd like to hope we've seen kind of like the worst of what he can do today, and from now on it will improve.
Yeah.
But certainly Schalke are a better team with him in it, and I also think he probably could play a role in central in like a holding midfield type role, or even further forward as more of a wing back, depending on what formation we play. Obviously, at 4-2-3-1, wing back isn't really as relevant, but yeah, we are a better team for having him in the squad.
And then with regards to Matthew Hopp, did you know much about him before he came into the first team in and around November time, I think it was?
Well, I've got to admit, last Saturday against Hoffenheim, I was halfway through a bit of a rant on Twitter about why is he playing over and literally just as I was about to press the tweet button, he scored his goal with an absolute sublime finish. So fortunately I didn't send that tweet. The thing I liked about his 3 goals last week in particular, they were very clinical.
Yeah.
And the sort of goals you'd expect a more seasoned striker to have scored. All 3 goals were taken in different ways and showed different aspects to his game. So, yeah, it's certainly exciting that we have a player of that ability at that age who can score those sort of finishes. I think it'd be interesting to see what happens moving forward, whether if we do bring back Kuntelar, whether he goes back onto the bench or whether we go up to 2 up front. I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, 4 goals in 2 games, that is almost like open top bus through Gelsenkirchen's sort of scenes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's as good as it gets, really, at the moment for a Schalke fan. Yeah, I mean, obviously, looking forward to midweek, obviously, I mean, that's the definition of a 6-pointer, really, isn't it? I mean, it's Schalke versus FC Cologne. As a Schalke fan, do you feel as though that's a must-win, really, for your club?
100%. This is a game. Like, I don't care how we do it, how dirty and filthy it is, whether it comes off of Nastasic's elbow and goes in the back of that, I really don't care. Everything's fair game. We just simply have to win that game. You know, I know we're roughly halfway through the season, but we've got to take advantage of games against those who are around us and those who are down the bottom and when we're at home, because it won't be that long until we start playing teams like Bayern and that yellow team and Leipzig again. So it's important that we do beat the teams that are around us. And I think Wednesday's game will go a long way to sealing our fate, even though we are so far off. I think after winning at Hoffenheim and the result and performance today, it's really, really important that we hit the ground running again on Wednesday and beat Cologne.
Yeah, agreed. I think I've got just a few more questions for yourself, Greg, with regards to Schalke anyway. First one is, like, basically, me and Mark we banged our heads together a little bit with regards to how Schalke can turn things around this season. Obviously, from a fully fledged Schalke fan, what do you think they need to do to obviously ultimately try and turn things around? Is it a case of formation? Is it? I mean, obviously, you've already mentioned player quality. It's hard when you don't have the quality. So, any bright ideas?
I think we made a start in having a relatively decent keeper in Farman. So I think the keeper sets the tone for the 10 players in front of him. And I think Farman has shown his qualities in recent games. I think it's really important that we get Sané back in defence. Nastasic and Kabak, I don't think seem gel. I think from a left-back perspective, Kolasinac is a decent option for us and is certainly better than Ospika. The right-back position is pretty weak. We had Becker, a young lad who played today, and we've had Ludwig in previous weeks, but I'd have thought quite a fair few goals that we conceded this season have come from that position. They're talking about bringing Rafinha, an ex-Schalke player who went to Bayern Munich, is coming to Olympiacos, him coming back, but I think he's about 35 years old now, so that definitely would be a short-term measure. I think we struggle to keep clean sheets and we struggle to score goals. And you put both of those together, that only equals one thing, and that's struggle and defeat. So we need to be a lot more stable, a lot more stronger in defence, and we need better support from central midfield. And when we do get the ball moving forward into attack, we'd like to Roman and Harrit, they've got to step up. Yeah. I mean, Harrit on his day can be fantastic like he was last week against Hoffenheim, but today is the Harrit that I kind of know, and that is lazy, doesn't care, and just becomes a passenger for the game. And it's almost like he kind of lacks a bit of motivation, I think, at times, and I think he probably does need a clip around the ear potentially to get him focused again. But we've got players who should be able to create chances. I think Hoppe has shown that he can score. Huntelaar, okay, he's not been the same player that we had 3 or 4 years back, or might be longer than that. But he still knows where the goal is, and he's a good target man. But that's only well and good having such a target man, such a clinical striker, if you've got the ability in attack to create chances, and that's what makes me a little bit nervous. So we just got to be a whole lot better, a whole lot more efficient, and a whole lot more adaptable in attack to create chances. Because if you don't create chances, you might as well mess you up top, and you still won't score.
And final one from me then, Greg. Obviously we know that you're obviously a Schalke fan based in the UK, but so what basically brought you to be a Schalke fan, just out of interest?
Yeah, it's purely by chance. So I went on a stag do to Cologne, great city, and the best man organised tickets for a football game for Schalke versus Hertha Berlin. Now, Cologne to Gelsenkirchen is a long way, a very, very long way. It is when you're, would prefer to be in town partying, but we went to the game and it was an experience that kind of completely changed my views on what football should be like. And walking into the stadium, it was 60,000 on a Friday night on a terrace with an amazing atmosphere in terms of both the noise and the visual of it all. Being welcomed onto the terrace, 9 English guys going onto a German terrace. You can make an assumption that it could be a bit vociferous and unfriendly, but it wasn't. People were buying us beers, and I think they were kind of like surprised to see some English guys at the game on a terrace. But the football wasn't great, but as the atmosphere and the camaraderie and the down-to-earth nature of the fans in the area, that I think really turned my head. And from then onwards, I kind of stayed in touch, and I've gone back as much as I physically can. I helped set up the Schalke fan club in the UK, and I've had some really good times, overseas in Europe. Some great trips, some really good trips as well across the Bundesliga. And I was lucky enough to be in Berlin for the Pokal win as well, when we won a cup against Duisburg a fair few years back, and that was an amazing experience. So watching Schalke is not easy. It really isn't easy, and it's a roller coaster. It's emotional and it's challenging. And if you've got bad health, I do not recommend it. If you want to follow a German team just for success, there are other teams out there for you. But if you want to support a team that kind of lives and dies by the results, and the fans are kind of an intrinsic part of the club, then Schalke is a good place to start.
Brilliant. Good stuff.
You need thick skin.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with what you say about the fans. I'm a Nuremberg fan, Greg, and I think we actually have a friendship with you. Nuremberg and Schalke, we have a friendship.
That's true.
And I was lucky enough to be at the game last time Nuremberg were in the Bundesliga. I think 2 years ago now. I went to the game, Nuremberg v Schalke, and it was I think it was the best atmosphere of any football match I've ever been to in my life. And I've seen football matches in a lot of countries. And I think it was something like I've never seen before. Like they were singing they had a banner with both clubs, and it was just amazing, really. And I've never seen a friendship between clubs before, really. But I think the atmosphere was second to none, to be honest with you.
Yeah, atmosphere is key, and I think certainly someone who's relatively new into German football, and that I've been watching Schalke for just over 10 years, the fan friendship thing is kind of strange for a lot of English people, but it is the norm in Europe. And the thing I like about the Schalke Nuremberg thing is they're miles apart. So none of this Dortmund silly thing with Cologne, where just when they're cool now, being best friends, which is kind of bizarre. But yeah, it is good that there's a friendship with a recognised traditional club in the south of Germany.
Yeah, and the cultures are completely different in the two cities as well. Even with the people, But it's a fantastic thing, this friendship. I totally agree. When I first heard about it, when people told me, I was like, "What a friendship between football clubs! How's that possible?" But yeah, it was really It was a really incredible experience, and all the fans were just drinking together after the game, and everyone was talking to each other. It was amazing, to be honest.
I should add, I've probably been to the best part of 60 Bundesliga games, I'd say, and the vast majority of the times, before the game and after the game, fans are drinking together, You get the occasional idiots, but I think of a few years back when we played the yellow team in Schalke and we won, which is always nice. And I was drinking in one of the supporters club bars, and after the game, a couple of Dortmund fans came in, and there was banter, but it was friendly and had a laugh, and that's probably how it should be.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more there, Greg. Yeah. Okay, so let's swiftly move on to the next featured game now, which was what I thought was quite an entertaining draw between Stuttgart and Borussia Mönchengladbach. And I mean, we myself and Rory have really enjoyed watching both of these teams this season. I mean, both of them play really entertaining, attacking football. Obviously, Gladbach without Marcus Thuram at the minute, and the out of form Alician Plia as well. But did you catch that one, Greg?
Yeah, I watched a bit of it, and I think with Mönchengladbach, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get fast-paced attacking football, and I think with them it's very much if you score 2, we'll try and score 3, which is kind of my kind of football. And it's quite refreshing, especially from a team that is challenging for the top, for Europe in the Bundesliga. Stuttgart, for me, are a real surprise package. The calibre of their football is fantastic. The way they play football, and they play with no fear, and I think it's a wonderful trait. And I think the Bundesliga needs a strong Stuttgart. They're a big city club, traditional club, and I think the Bundesliga can only be better for Stuttgart challenging for the top half of the table in Europe. But I saw parts of the game, and it's consistent with the rest of the season. They play football the right way, and they try and score goals, which for me is about what football should be about.
Yeah, I completely agree. Me and Mark have had many discussions about how refreshing Stuttgart have been to the Bundesliga this season. They seem to have a quality in the fact that they truly never know when they're beat. I think it was opening day of the season, they were 3-0 down after the first half, and they still came back and made it. Well, they still lost 3-2, but the story goes. But they go into the last minute. I mean, obviously the penalty comes from a very daft bit of defending by Gladbach, the kind of manhandling of Kaladzic in the penalty area. I mean, that's just seems to be typical of Gladbach's season so far. That whereas Stuttgart are probably the more pleased side to have got a draw, Gladbach are kind of finding ways to throw away wins to then draw games. So, Greg, what do you think? Gladbach have done an amazing job of getting out of the Champions League group. Do you think Europe's been too much a distraction for them? Do you think their squad's a bit too thin at the moment to compete on two fronts?
It's hard to say. I mean, they've got some really good players in their team, and I think their style of football, it requires a real clinical striker. And when your option is Brilliant Bolo, which it was the other night, I think he's not the same as Kosciusz Plia, for example, or Thuram. So I think don't get me wrong, I'd walk over broken glass to Evan Bolo at Schalke because at least Mönchengladbach have got options. But I think for them to achieve their goals, they're going to need a real clinical striker, and as you say, cut out these silly errors in late games as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I myself have criticised Mbolo a little bit. I would agree with you though on the point that he's good backup, but he's not like a top level striker as far as I'm concerned. Like if you look at his record, he misses hatfuls of chances as well. Like, I mean, if you've seen some of the games in the last few weeks, not so much the last 2 weeks, but he misses a good 2-3 good chances a game, really, at times. And I just think, they perhaps need someone a little bit more clinical in that position as backup, especially with Plia. I'm a little bit surprised to see that he's not been starting recently because he is fit. He's just been benched recently. Any ideas there? What's going on? Why they're not starting him?
No, I don't know, But they are in an enviable position if you're a Gladbach fan or you're a part of the coach that set up at Gladbach, because you've got 3 strikers that most clubs in the Bundesliga would like to have one of at least in their teams. Okay, doesn't apply for the likes of Bayern and Dortmund, but the rest of the teams would most of those strikers would be getting in the squad, shall we say, of a European challenging team in the Bundesliga. So they do have riches compared to other clubs when it comes to attack.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so let's swiftly move on to the third featured game this week, which might surprise a few people that we put this one in there, but we have been a little bit critical of Werder Bremen in recent weeks and their lack of attacking intent. So they did get a rare win. I think it's like only the second win in 12 games, this one. So I think it's only fair that we give them a bit of attention this week. But yeah, I mean, obviously it was two late goals that did the business in the end, but I think few people that watched the game would deny that it wasn't a deserved win, really, against an Augsburg side who are really starting to lack cutting edge after a strong start to the season. Greg, what do you think Werder should expect this season? Like, obviously, they only just avoided relegation last season. Do you think they're having a solid season or a little bit shaky at times?
It wasn't too long ago Werder were playing some amazing football in the Bundesliga. We only go back a couple of seasons, and I'm not close enough to them to know in terms of what really has changed. But I think, in recent form, Werder Bremen and Augsburg were drifting towards the bottom end of the table. And I think if I was a Werder Bremen fan, what I'd be looking for this season is mid-table, to consolidate and build from there. The last thing the Bundesliga needs is someone like Werder Bremen in the same predicament as Schalke. The Bundesliga needs big traditional clubs. That's what it should be known for, not necessarily, shall we say, some of the franchise clubs like RBL. So the table doesn't lie. I think Werder Bremen are where they are in the league for a reason. And I don't see them flirting with the relegation spots, and I think they'll finish up where they are at the moment towards the end of the season.
Yeah, I think Werder seem to be a very hot and cold team. Obviously, they managed to turn on the business towards the latter half of last season to get themselves just out of trouble. Obviously, they came through the relegation playoff matches, two legs, unconvincingly, but before then they clearly showed that they are capable of beating teams. I think they put 6 past a team that I forget now at one stage, and they're playing some really good stuff. Bittencourt was obviously key to that as well. He, of course, is key to them, but blows hot and cold, so you never really know how the particular way at the moment Werder are going to play. So I think I agree with Greg there, saying that consolidate with mid-table. If you can make sure that you're not realistically involved in a relegation battle that much, then as a Werder fan, I think you've got to be happy. And then Augsburg, for me at the moment, they're a bit of a nothingy team. They're solid enough, and they don't tend to ship too many goals. But Greg, you think, again, like similar to Werder, do you reckon mid-table for Augsburg is about a fair shout, and that's all they can be happy for?
I think the Bundesliga and football fans need to celebrate Augsburg, actually, because they're not a club of immense resources. They don't necessarily play the best football, but neither do my club Schalke. But they grind out results. Yeah, okay, at the moment they're just above the relegation spots. I don't expect them to be down there struggling at the end of the season. I think they're a credit to their city, and I think they're also an example of a team that hasn't got a huge playing budget, but they make wise choices on who they sign. And I don't see Augsburg, like Bremen, I don't see them struggling coming into the season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Augsburg's a club that's quite near to Nuremberg as well, and I know a lot of Nuremberg fans, they get very frustrated because the club, they always say that they don't have the resources, but then Nuremberg fans, they say, well, look at a club like Augsburg, which is only like 50 miles down the road. I mean, they have similar level of resources, and yet they always manage to consolidate themselves as a solid Bundesliga side. And I think, as you say, a lot of the big clubs down in the second league, like your Hamburgs, your Nurembergs, your Bochum even, they look at this and they think well, if Augsburg and Freiburg can do it, then why can't we? So yeah, I mean, they really do well to operate as because they really do operate on a minuscule budget, really, for a club that have been in the Bundesliga, I think, for the last best part of 10 years now without being relegated. So, I mean, it's an outstanding run, really. They remind me a little bit of my club in England, Wigan Athletic. I mean, they punch way above the level for 11 years in the Premier League. Yeah. Sorry, for 9 years in the Premier League. And I think Augsburg are a kind of similar club in many ways to Wigan, but without the cup win, of course. Yeah.
But you know what you're going to get when Augsburg turn up. They're generally going to be organised. They are going to be a little bit risk adverse. They're going to be direct, but you know what they're going to get, and they do it well. They play to their strengths, and they don't try and pretend to be something that they're not.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, without doubt. Okay, so let's move on to our fourth and final OTB's Featured 4 game, which was, of course, the game earlier this afternoon as well, which was a 2-1 win for Bayern over Freiburg. I think I really didn't fancy Bayern to win this game. I thought they were in a little bit of turmoil, but yeah, I mean, whenever Bayern are in a bit of turmoil, they find the result, don't they, Greg? And I mean, this probably wasn't a vintage performance against a really, really solid and free-flowing Freiburg side, really. I mean, some of the football they've been playing recently is fantastic. Greg, do you think this is a big win for Bayern in terms of the title race?
I think it's a game they had to win. I really do. I think if you look at the results this weekend and what's gone in previous weeks, I think it was about winning at all costs. And I think whilst the scoreline doesn't suggest that Bayern were leaps and bounds better than Freiburg, they were actually pretty good, just didn't really take their chances. And I think let's not disrespect to Freiburg, because they have been excellent this season as they were last season. They're not the biggest club, they're not most, shall we say, well-known clubs or the club with the biggest budget. But again, a bit of Augsburg, but they play football a bit more ambitious, shall we say, in how they try to set up to win games. But they go out to win games, and I think Freiburg is another team that should be celebrated. And they're going to Bayern and losing 2-1, for most clubs isn't a bad scoreline, but Bayern have been on the ropes for a few weeks now, so they probably do look back on that as a missed opportunity. But Bayern, I think, I don't know whether it's the same across all to the top flight in European leagues. So if I look at Bayern, if I look at Liverpool, Man City, Barcelona, Real Madrid, it seems across Europe all the top teams have let their standards drop. I don't know whether it's because their standards are dropped or everyone below has got slightly better. I don't know what it is, but Bayern, on paper, they should be steamrolling every single team in the Bundesliga, but they're not, which suggests something isn't quite right in their team, or something isn't quite right off the pitch. I don't know, or whether teams know how to play against them, but, I fully expect Bayern to be the Bundesliga champion in the season as ever, but certainly. Now, if you are a confident attacking team, now is a good time to be playing Bayern.
Yeah, absolutely agreed with you there, Greg. I think, again, something that me and Mark talked about a lot this season, that Bayern have been, they've been good. They've been good in certain games, but they've also been quite underwhelming at times as well, given the levels of football that we've seen from them in previous seasons quite recently as well. Would you say it's a bit of a worry in terms of the title race this season and maybe going ahead, the fact that Bayern haven't really got going into fourth or maybe even fifth gear, and they still already have a 4-point cushion at the top of the Bundesliga, the likes of RB and the team in yellow, as you would refer to, and Leverkusen as well, who have dropped away. That's just, is it a mental thing perhaps now, because Bayern are looking quite ominous again?
Well, this is nothing new. I think if there's having this conversation last season or season before or season before that, we would be having a similar conversation. And Bayern are a machine. Their resources are, the resources that they have that they have access to are far beyond any other club in the Bundesliga. So we shouldn't be surprised that they dominate. All I would hope is that when the gap does close, it isn't because of franchise ventures like what we have in Leipzig. It's on the back of teams with a long-term strategy and plan. Dortmund got very, very close for a number of years, and for a number of seasons, they surpassed them. And that's great for the Bundesliga. Not great for a Schalke fan, but great for the Bundesliga. But we've seen, when push comes to shove and Bayern really need that win result, they find a way, and they're used to winning, and that is once you're used to winning, that's a trait that's very hard to lose.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I said a similar thing to Rory on Saturday actually, about how when push comes to shove in the Bundesliga, a lot of the big teams, they do kind of, I don't want to say bottle it as such, but they tend to put back-to-back bad results. You know, I mean, we've seen it with Leipzig this week as well, with the defeat against Dortmund last week, and then, I mean, they were a little bit unlucky this week, but you've got to be winning those games. You've got to be taking your chances and winning those games, and it's just, if you give Bayern the chance, they will take it, and they're not going to mess around for too long, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the last few weeks, you know, if you look at what Leverkusen did or Leverkusen losing at Union, Dortmund not beating Mainz, which is bittersweet for me because I never want to see Dortmund win, but Mainz are above or below us, so it's like, damn. But I don't know. It kind of feels that a lot of the clubs just don't have the know-how to maintain form and know how to grind results out when it really matters. And I think it certainly helps if you've got players like Lewandowski in your team or Müller, because they've been there, done it, got the T-shirt and sold it a million times over. So no one else has got that.
Yeah, I think for me it's a little bit of tactical naivety as well at times. I think, as we mentioned, Bundesliga, a lot of the top teams in the Bundesliga, they do like to be kind of super attacking in some ways. And I think, like, if you look in other leagues, teams can kind of grind out a result, whereas I'm not convinced that teams like Dortmund, Leverkusen or Leipzig can really grind out wins. You know, they're not that kind of... We've seen it in some games a little bit with Leipzig this year, but when push comes to shove, they can't win ugly. You know, it's like, and I just think that's a problem, whereas Bayern do know how to win ugly. Not necessarily ugly, but they don't have to play the best and they can win. Whereas the other teams, they have to play close to the best to win games against anyone. And that's the problem, really.
I don't disagree with that, but what I think should also be considered is, you know, the teams we've spoken about there. When it comes to Europe and when it comes to playing teams in the Premiership, the Bundesliga teams generally fare pretty well against the better teams in the Premiership. So it's almost as if that the likes of Leipzig going to games in Europe thinking, well, we are the underdogs here, so we've got nothing to lose. Whereas in the Bundesliga, they are now known to be good quality players, play great football, and like to win. So it's almost like it's the pressure. They can't deal with expectation, whereas in Europe they can be they go into it with more of the great unknown and the willingness to shall we say, go down fighting.
Absolutely agreed. Well, I think that brings a close then to our featured four section. Very briefly before we say goodbye to Greg, again, if you don't already follow him on Twitter, please do so. His username is Schalke_UK, or if you type in SO for UK, you can find him there. So please do drop Greg a follow. Greg, thank you very much for your time today. It's been brilliant to have you on to chat all things Schalke. You've been really insightful, actually, and been a brilliant guest. So thank you very much for your time, and hopefully we'll get you on again sometime soon.
Hopefully on the back of a relegation dogfight victory.
Yeah, I really sounds good, to be honest with you, Greg. Yeah, I really hope.
I really don't fancy going to Sandhausen on the Monday night next season. I really don't.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks a lot, Greg. It was a pleasure. You. Yeah. Bye.
Cheers, Greg.
Bye.
Okay, so let's continue with our roundup of the other 5 games. Let's do it a little bit quickly because some of those games weren't the most entertaining of matches. But yeah, Friday night, a 1-0 win for Union over Leverkusen. I mean, this was perhaps a bit of an underwhelming game, I thought, in some ways. But yeah, Christian Teukart late goal after he earlier hit the post. I mean, it's one of those where they just seem to find a new hero every week, Rory, Union.
Yeah, they do, especially because Union lost Becker to injury early on, and obviously his replacement was Tuchel, who then comes on and does a good job, hits the post, and then eventually will go on to get the winner. So the Union Berlin steam train keeps on going. They're looking fantastic. Leverkusen, yeah, I mean they look shot shy. All of a sudden they seem like they haven't got any goals in them. So yeah, I think Leverkusen got a few big games coming up, so maybe that's something that they need to get their season back going, because Leverkusen are going in the wrong direction and Union are just going up and up and up.
Yeah, I mean, only 2 defeats all season as well, and there were 2 games you probably wouldn't have expected them to lose as well, at home to Augsburg and away at Hertha. But I mean, against the big teams, they're just like gods, really, aren't they? And I mean, obviously, they go to Leipzig on Wednesday night, and I mean, I think they'll fancy getting something there, to be honest, at the moment. Okay, so on to probably the most entertaining game that we didn't include in our featured 4. It was Wolfsburg 2, Leipzig 2. I mean, this was just, if you want to watch entertaining, free-flowing football, this was the game. But at the same time, some of the defending was shocking as well, Rory.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the equaliser for RB that Orban pokes home. I don't know what's going through the minds of the 2 players. I think it's Brooks and someone else that leave the ball that's coming towards the keeper, and they both just stand out the way. I mean, and then the keeper, Castells, obviously has to try and pour it out, and then Orban is on the line to hammer it home. So less said about, I mean, sometimes Brooks comes out with some absolute worldies in terms of his concentration, I think, is sometimes lacking. So, yeah, so not great defending mixed with 2 teams that know how to score goals. It was a very entertaining game. It's probably unlucky not to have been in our featured 4. But yeah, it's that old one with RB dropping points, which they've been doing quite regularly now. Either team probably could have won it. RB pushed towards the end to maybe get a 3-2 win, which on the scale of things you wouldn't have argued against. They didn't play badly. But yeah, obviously a draw for Wolfsburg isn't a disaster against a good team as well. So entertaining game, but RB would be disappointed to have dropped points again.
Yeah, I think another point was the fact that obviously Sabitzer got caught again. Like, we've seen this a lot with Leipzig, them getting caught playing it out in that from the back, and it seems to be a big source of goals conceded, especially against better teams for Leipzig. I mean, we do see this a lot. We've seen it over the years as well, and this time it was Sabitzer being caught, and then obviously Stefan banging in. To be honest, it was a pretty lucky second goal, really, because it was a heavy deflection. You see that sometimes, don't you, where the deflection is just perfect, where it takes it past the keeper but still inside the post. I think we saw one with Bayern a few weeks ago. But yeah, I mean, that was a pretty lucky goal. But overall, I would say a draw was fair and an entertaining game there. Okay, yeah. So moving on again past that, I mean, we had the Dortmund 1, Mainz 1, which I think Greg mentioned just earlier. I mean, nobody could have predicted this, could you? But I think it just about sums up Dortmund's last couple of years, to be honest. It's like 1 step forward and 2 steps back, isn't it? And I mean, this is a horror result, really, for Dortmund. I mean, missing the penalty through Marco Reus, getting a pretty scrappy leveller through Thomas Meunier, who's not had a good season at all. What did you make of that one, Rory?
Yeah, I mean, this was the shock result of the weekend for me. The form that Dortmund had been on, they'd looked good in the last few weeks, and we talked quite a lot about how poor Mainz had been. So to add, 2 and 2 together, you come up with a comfortable Dortmund win at home, but anything but. I mean, it was a good game for 1-1, actually. There were chances at both ends. Obviously, Haaland scored after about 90 seconds, but that got chucked off for offside in the build-up. Meunier, so that was maybe unfortunate, but I think we have to take our hats off to the Mainz goal scorer who takes the ball out of defence, Oztunali, turns inside and then unleashes an absolute ping to put it top bins. It was a fantastic strike. I'd maybe say, I mean, when I say top bins, it's obviously in the air and it's close to the top corner, but Could Berkey have maybe done better? I might be a bit harsh, maybe, I don't know. And then obviously Dortmund kind of piled on the pressure to eventually get an equaliser. But yeah, another bad day at the office really for Dortmund. It's just not clicking. Even with Haaland back in the team, and yeah, it was a real surprise, 1-1. Less said about the result for Dortmund, the better, and a very, very useful point for Mainz, which I'm sure they wouldn't have predicted at the start of that.
Yeah, and on top of that, I mean, it's 2 minutes after the penalty miss. Danny Laster, you probably remember his name from the big miss against Bayern, once again hit the post when it looked like he couldn't miss with about 10 minutes to go. Yeah, so I mean, it could have been even better, couldn't it? But yeah, I mean, it proves that Mainz is there's still fire in the old tank. You know, I mean, a good performance at Bayern where they were unlucky a few weeks ago, and then a game where, again, I mean, it could have gone either way this game. Mainz played a part in an entertaining game, and they probably had as many chances as Dortmund really throughout the match, I would say. Okay, so let's just finish the show with two. To be honest, there were two of probably the worst games of the season as far as I'm concerned, so we won't dwell on them too much. A 0-0 draw between Cologne and Hertha, and a 0-0 draw between Hoffenheim and Bielefeld. I mean, Rory, was there anything that really stuck out in those two games combined for you?
Not overly. Four teams that are struggling. The points are probably better for, I'd say, Arminia and Hertha, maybe. Hoffenheim needed to win that realistically, I think. And the fact that they've not been able to break down Arminia is quite worrying. Cologne are in free fall. I guess a point is enough at the moment based on other results. But yeah, two games that you probably could predict it wouldn't have been great contests. So less said about it, the better. I think that out of the four teams, the most happy will be Arminia to collect another point. So yeah, good news for them, mate, basically. But yeah, not great games.
Yeah, just one point I'd like to add. I've got to say that I think Matteo Guendouzi was really unlucky to be on the losing side, though. I think he's done... I didn't really rate him at Arsenal, to be honest, but I think this little spell at Hertha, for me, he's been by far Hertha's best player this season. I've been really impressed with him. Everything that Hertha have done well this season really has come through him, and probably Mateus Cunha as well. But yeah, I mean, he was unlucky. He hit the post and forced a good save from the Cologne keeper. But yeah, I couldn't agree. Like, Hoffenheim, I mean, you've got to question how long are they going to keep Hoeneß, really, because it's just not working, is it, really? And they're definitely in a relegation dogfight now. There's no question about it. I mean, the situation isn't desperate by any means yet, but they need a win very, very soon, unless they will be in that bottom three before long.
Indeed.
Okay, so that pretty much sums up our review for week 16. So that brings us nicely onto, we do have midweek fixtures as well this week. So let's go over to Petrie and Pundits Predict with Rory.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's fire through nice and quickly, as again we've had to go through in detail the analysis. So yeah, the midweek games for Matchday 17. So we start off with Mainz hosting Wolfsburg on Tuesday night. I'm saying 3-1 to the away side. Mark, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I think I'll go 2-1 to Wolfsburg there.
Okie doke. And then we've also got Schalke hosting FC Cologne in obviously what we've described as a huge game. I think Schalke will do the job. I'm saying 2-0, so I hope Greg will be pleased with that.
Yeah, I think they are on better form than Cologne at the moment. I'm going 1-0, but I think they will do it.
Very good. And then we've got Freiburg hosting Frankfurt. That looks like a decent game. I think it'll be 2-1 Freiburg.
Yeah, this is a really good one. 2-on form sides. I've gone for a 1-1 draw because I think both might be a little bit tired for this one.
Yeah, and we've got... Oh, sorry, I've done this in slightly different order. We've also got Borussia Mönchengladbach. They host Werder Bremen, and that, I reckon, will be 2-1.
Yeah, I've gone for a comfortable 2-0 to Gladbach. I think overall they're on a positive trajectory at the minute.
Yeah, and then we have Leverkusen hosting Borussia Dortmund, which I reckon will be 2-1 to Leverkusen. I reckon they can kickstart their season.
Wow. Yeah. No, I've gone for a 3-1 to Dortmund. I just don't see anything in this Leverkusen side at the minute. I'm really worried about them, to be honest.
And then Hertha Berlin host Hoffenheim, which I think won't be a great contest, so I'm saying 1-1.
Yeah, probably the two underachievers of this season, to be honest. The two sides that are doing worse than what was expected, but I've also gone 1-1 there.
And then RB Leipzig host Union Berlin, so I think that'll probably be quite an entertaining game, so I'm saying 2-2.
Yeah, I've gone 1-1.
Very good. Then Bielefeld host the newcomers as well, Stuttgart, so I think Stuttgart will win 3-1 away from home.
Yeah, I've gone for a 2-1 there for Stuttgart.
Very good. And the last game will be FC Augsburg hosting Bayern Munich, and I think Bayern Munich will be able to come away with a 3-1 away win.
Yeah, it's worth bearing in mind this is a derby. They're very, very close to each other, these two towns. But I'm going to go for a 3-0 Munich win because I think Augsburg are really going through a tough time at the minute, to be honest.
Yeah, very good. So that brings a close to Petrie and Pundits Predict. And what we'll do is very quickly, we'll just go over our hero and zero of the week. So starting off with a hero, as much as I hate to do it to Greg, because it obviously involves a player that has come back to, well, he's haunted Schalke on this occasion, coming on as a sub. Luka Jovic back on loan at Frankfurt, comes off the bench to score 2 goals to ensure that Frankfurt come away with 3 points, is our hero of the week. I think that's a great move for him and for Frankfurt. So let's hope that move goes well for him. And then Mark, do you want to tell us who our zero was?
Yeah, absolutely. There were no kind of real standouts this week. There were no real horror shows, but I do think it was, it's got to be Marco Reus from Dortmund for that horrendous penalty. I mean, he's not even hit the target. It's just, for me, he's not had his best season in general, Marco Reus. I would say it's probably been his worst season that I can really remember as a Dortmund player or even as a Gladbach player before that. Yeah. And I think, he's been poor, and this kind of summed up his season in some ways. The missed penalty, which led to a poor 1-1 draw for Borussia Dortmund.
It did indeed, so that brings a close our hero and zero. Of course, if you agree or disagree, please do drop a comment and say who you reckon was either your hero or your zero in the comment section. But that will do us for this week. Again, our thanks to Greg for coming on tonight whilst we're recording. He was a great guest, and fingers crossed that Schalke can do the business for him for the rest of the season. As mentioned, please do drop Greg a follow on Twitter to follow all the trials and tribulations of the rest of Schalke's season. So again, thanks for watching. We hope that you enjoyed the show in these tough times that we're presently going through. If you do enjoy the show, please do drop us a subscribe with the big red button on YouTube, and also do the same if you're listening on the podcast. Leave a rating, leave a review, let us know how we're getting on. Hopefully we'll be back very soon with some midweek action in the Bundesliga, and of course there's lots more to come from us this year. So very quickly, over to Mark to finish off the show.
Absolutely, yeah. So remember, guys, if you want to check out our Twitter feed, you can see @OverTheBarFB. We've got everything related to football, everything Bundesliga related. Also, we specialise on the League One show as well. So check that out and check out. We've actually had a really big piece as well. Our chief editor, Paul McGarrigy, has published an article about a really, really big breakthrough actually for the writing side of our OTB site. So yeah, please check that out. Paul's really invested a lot of time. It's a fantastic reading. It's also kind of like breaking news as well in many ways. Mm-hmm. So I mean, it's a real cutting edge piece about CF Royce. I think that Paul will correct me on the Spanish pronunciation. Spanish isn't my best language really. So yeah, I think it's Royce or Roos, but check it out anyway. Okay, and also remember, check out our main site as well, otbfootball.net, where you can see everything football related. So yeah, so thanks for joining us again this week. It was a pleasure to see you. Remember to keep commenting, and thanks to Greg for joining us as well. I thought he was a fantastic guest today. So thank you and goodbye.
Till next time.